Smith Senior Living is celebrating 100 years as one of Chicagoland's premier senior living organizations. It began in 1915 as the idea of Susan Woodman, a resident of Englewood, to create a home as a residence for the elderly who did not have anyone to care for them. Joined by her physician, Dr. William Gregg, the two worked to make her dream a reality. To ensure that, they secured a charter from the state of Illinois. To properly establish the home, they assembled a high-profile group of movers and shakers in the state of Illinois that included Jane Addams, Governor Charles Deneen, Senator Joseph McCormick, whose family owned the Chicago Tribune, John G. Shedd, president of Marshall Field and Company and benefactor of the Shedd Aquarium in Chicago, and the legendary attorney Clarence Darrow. There was a lot going on in the country at that time that would later have significant historical impact. The Volstead Act began prohibition. Women secured the right to vote. Mr. Capone and his organization were thriving in the city of Chicago. As World War I ended, outreach began in earnest to help acquire property and a building to house residents. It took 5 years of fundraising, planning, and building until the Oak Haven Old People's Home welcomed its first 44 residents when it opened on May 1st, 1924. In its design, a sincere effort was made to create and maintain a home-like atmosphere. That tradition was respected with every subsequent addition and continues to this day. The care offerings were a bit different back in the day. The home was equipped with a modern hospital department consisting of an operating room or dispensary room and one 2-bedroom, private bath, and dietary kitchen. It even supplied dentistry services and furnished eyeglasses. Since the doors opened, there was a wait list to join the community, and it was growing continuously. This made expansion an immediate need. The board began looking for sources for additional funds that would provide the home with the space they needed and an endowment that would generate enough money to pay for the new residents' care. After an exhaustive 2-year search, they announced that the assets of the Oak Haven home were to be merged with those of the estate of Emily Smith, the late daughter of Washington and Jane Smith. Her long-term dream was to establish a care home, and the fund was set up to ensure that dream was realized. The value of Miss Smith's estate was estimated to be in the neighborhood of $1,750,000. With inflation, it would be about $31 million today. With surplus funds from the endowment, Smith Senior Living established Emily's Fund in honor of Emily Smith. The fund makes it possible for every resident to receive the care they need and to live with dignity and security, even if they exhausted their funds through no fault of their own. With the provisions of her trust secured, expansions came in earnest. The North Smith Wing was added and equipped with medical facilities. Then came the Smith South Wing, with the boiler room and the auditorium. Capacity had now increased to 155, allowing the community to serve more deserving members of South Chicagoland. The organization that resulted from the union between Oak Haven and the Washington and Jane Smith Fund was described in 1929 in the Southtown Economist as, quote, one of the greatest institutions of its kind in the United States. And it also received a new name. According to the terms of Emily's will, the home was now to be known as the Washington and Jane Smith Home, which was carved in stone over the front door. Washington Smith was a Chicago businessman and real estate investor who is said to be the first person to operate a wholesale dry goods store in the city of Chicago. During his lifetime, he gave freely of his substantial fortune to the underprivileged. In 1954, the Morrison Trust proposed the idea of using funds from the Edward Morrison estate to build an addition to the Washington and Jane Smith home. The Morrison Wing featured 40 rooms. Almost 2 decades later, 51 rooms were added as part of the Gregg Wing construction, named for founder Dr. William Gregg, who served on the institution's board of directors and as its medical director for a combined period of 56 years. The Oakley Wing, now the Johansen Wing, named after longtime CEO Gary Johansson, who oversaw its construction, added 83 beds in 1991. And in 2001, the second floor of the Johansson Wing was renovated to provide a specialized neighborhood that would serve residents with Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. Both Smith communities offer memory care in assisted living and skilled care to best meet the needs of residents with memory loss. During the 1990s, it was decided that to better serve the needs of the ever-evolving senior population, our concept of what a senior living community is would have to change as well. Therefore, in 2004, a second community, Smith Crossing, was opened on a 32-acre site in Orland Park, consisting of 87 independent living apartments and 10 independent living cottages, an assisted living center that includes 32 assisted living units and 16 memory support units, and a health center. The community was so successful that plans were immediately made for expansion. The Smith's Board of Trustees chose Orland Park as the site of the second community because it was where many families Smith had served over the decades now lived. The following year, the Washington and Jane Smith home in Beverly, including the original structure built in 1924, underwent a $68 million redevelopment. It was completely transformed from a sheltered care community to a continuing care retirement community, or CCRC, offering all levels of care on one campus. Renamed Smith Village, it welcomed new residents to its independent living apartments in 2007. 5 years later, Smith Crossing also expanded to increase capacity by over 60%. As CCRCs, both communities are able to offer more than just care. They offer complete, vibrant retirement lifestyles, abundant amenities, various hobby clubs, engaging events, dining options that rival local restaurants, salons, and much more are all part of the package, not to mention exceptional care at every level. And we're always evolving to meet the needs of our residents. Both Smith Crossing and Smith Village have frequently been voted one of the best senior living communities in Chicago's Southland area. In 2020, Smith Crossing opened Greenleaf Rehab, which offered short-term rehabilitation therapy in a state-of-the-art environment. Most recently, Smith Village has modernized its skilled nursing care wing and updated to provide more innovative care services and accommodations. What started as a home for 44 has grown into a successful senior living organization that the entire Southland of Chicago relies on. And it's just the beginning. As our residents evolve, so will our services, so we can continue to be a guiding light for area seniors and the gold standard in senior living.